How are you?
Thanks for asking. We've topics and, of course, covering 2A here. We're going to start off. Gun ownership is stepping now into help with safety in New Mexico's Indian country, according to gun experts in that state. JD, what are indigenous women now doing to empower themselves in New Mexico? Before we get to the bigger problem that's happening in Albuquerque.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so a guy he used to, what's the name here, Joe Talaki, a Pueblo Indian. Sorry, I don't know how to say this right. Pojo Aki tribal officer who owns one of the few native-owned gun stores in the U.S. Yeah, he opened it up. He was actually in law enforcement in 2025. He started, then he was lieutenant governor of the Pojo Aki Pueblo. And he was 11 years in tribal leadership. Now he's back in law enforcement. And 2021, he opened a gun shop there. And he said almost immediately he saw an increase of being up to take gun safety classes there, especially the women, taking safety into their own hands. I mean, the country's not really settled right now, and it's no different down there. And yeah, he said it's going great, which I think is great too. And indigenous people have a right to own guns just like anybody else does in the United States.
Absolutely.
So this is a great thing.
Clay, question for you now. Primarily, the article says that indigenous women are doing, they're purchasing handguns to feel safer. Now, I'm a father of two young girls, 22, and I see that's happening around this world. And I encourage them to take classes and shooting classes as well. I mean, wouldn't you, as a father of no matter your children in itself, wouldn't you encourage that for your children as well?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've had my kids shooting guns since they're old enough to really understand and hold one and do it in the proper form. I can't imagine not encouraging my children, especially, I'm here on the Standing Rock, and there's places here, I'm sure you know, that they're pretty sketchy at night, even during the day in some of these places. There's problems, just as there is anywhere, whether it's reservation or not. We've got some issues, and I think it's the great equalizer. I mean, essentially, Sam Colt, when he came out with the Colt revolver, he basically God made all men, but Colt, it went ahead and made
them all
completely
equal.
Made them all equal. It absolutely did, and that's kind of what's happening here. Let's just face it. Like Talak, he mentions in this article that women are, by nature, smaller frame. They're not as muscular as men. That's just genetics. That's a fact. It's nothing derogatory against women. There's some great women out there that are doing many things in all kinds of sports that take strength. But bottom line is if you take the two genders and you put them side by side, give them the same training, men will always be bigger and stronger. That's their genetic makeup. Well, I love the fact that they can exercise their Second Amendment rights, go out there in a safe place like here at Indigenous Arms 1680 and learn the proper way to use that firearm and protect themselves. There's no better equalizer than to have that concealed carry and have that option and exercise your rights. I can't say enough great about this. This is awesome. I would love to see something like that around here.
Well, one of the things too. I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the things too that this probably helps out, because I'm sure you both are well aware of this, that indigenous women over the last 50 years have been targeted, and there's been a lot of rape on reservations, unreported crimes, they go unsolved. So this, of course, JD, as Sam Colt said, this is a great equalizer.
Yeah, and I am aware of that, Jay, but in this article, I actually didn't know it was as high as it was on here.
Big time, isn't it?
It got a little thing, yeah. So crimes on tribal lands has been a long-standing issue, with the Indian Affairs reporting that more than 4 American, Indian, and Alaskan Native women, which is 84.3%, have experienced violence in their lifetime, according to a 2016 National Institute for Justice study. And in New Mexico, the FBI last year released 192 names of Native Americans confirmed missing from the state and the Navajo Nation. And between this one here really gets me. Between mid-July 2022 and mid-April of this year alone, 650 natives are reported missing by the FBI. That's to me is an unbelievable amount of people unaccounted for, that you don't know what happened to them. And I mean, I know my relatives, my grandparents were in Halliday, North Dakota, and Fort Berthold is right north there. And I mean, I heard stories about it. I didn't know when I was younger, didn't know if it was true, but the older I got, realized it was. And if you can't, like Clay was saying, the disparity of size and strength between most men and women. I'm not saying obviously there's some women that could probably beat the hell out of me, but most of the time it is unequal. And even for a man, I mean, if you get you might have a tough guy and you get 4 or 5 guys, and they don't have a gun and you do, guess what? You don't even have to shoot them, or for anything, and they see it and they know, hey, guess what? This means business. And I think if more natives would do this on reservations and use their right to defend themselves and their safety, this number would drastically be reduced, in my opinion.
Yeah. Clay,
I kind of wanted to take a look at the numbers on Standing Rock, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance. It was a long weekend. I went to Rapids, seen Trump, went camping, and I got home late. So unfortunately, I know talking with my buddy over there who works for BIA basically in the game fish department. He's basically under that umbrella, and he says it's bad. It is, and they've got people, they have no leads, they have no clue, they don't know where they went, and it's generally women or even young children, and that's a whole nother issue with the children that just riles me up. Whether I don't care who it is, I want to catch those people that are taking children.
Clay, so I'm from, I'm sorry, JD, that my reservation that I'm from, smaller reservation in size, and I'm guessing maybe you'd know better than I would that in New Mexico, some of the reservations in size-wise, pretty big for the BIA to have to cover. That landmass could take minutes, if not an hour, or maybe even longer to get to an incident. So this, of course, would help, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's just like around here. These things take place in seconds. Myself being involved in 3 incidences where I had to pull my concealed weapon to protect myself, where I felt that threatened. This is a matter of seconds, not minutes. Seconds, and seconds count. And you take New Mexico, large, vast mass, and the reservations are very, very large. They're kind of like Standing Rock's pretty large. So is the Cheyenne Reservation, but to the south of us. It could take minutes, even maybe up to an hour, for some of these places to have a response to. To me, there's nothing better than having that right in your hand, ready to go, and knowing how to use it. That's the big thing. Don't just buy a firearm for protection. Go out and shoot it. Take some classes in self-defense. Take some close quarters defense classes. I'm telling you guys, get yourself into that mode to pull and ready. If you pull your firearm, be willing, have it already made that decision in your mind that you will shoot the threat. You will eliminate the threat. Because if you hesitate, that could be the difference between life and death. And it takes some training. It truly does. I've been through a lot of that, and I can tell you right now, when I pulled mine every time, I guarantee you there was about a few seconds before I actually pulled that trigger, and the threat eliminated itself by leaving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mr. Talaki here says also, it doesn't guarantee you, right? It doesn't guarantee your safety, but it definitely evens out the odds or will put it in your favor. And I mean, if anybody's ever been to Standing Rock driving, I've mostly been down there hunting, and there is vast areas. I don't know how long it would take. And then now we have a shortage of law enforcement officers, so it's even worse now.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think the New Mexico, I can't remember. I'm sure I've seen it on a hunting show. I can't remember which guy was down there, but he goes down there, the bone collector guy, and that place looks massive. And it's even harder to get around there. Here it's flat, and we got basically, straight roads. Whereas you get somewhere like this, you got mountain roads, curves, and you're going faster. And it's to me, it seemed it would take longer there. I've never been to the one in eastern Montana, but I think that's pretty hilly too. I think it's Little Boy Reservation, but and I've heard of the problems there. So I think this is a great idea. Every reservation, maybe they should have a guy open up a gun store there. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's stay in the great state of New Mexico as they're governor now has issued an order suspending the right to carry firearms in the public across Albuquerque. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Clay, is this just in Albuquerque itself, or is it all across the state in New Mexico?
Well, it looked like to me it was pretty much in that Albuquerque County area.
Okay.
The governor, she's a commie tyrant as far as I'm concerned, and has been for a long time since she took office. And she did this under an emergency order. By the way, she did this under an emergency order through the health department. This is just another example why these health departments, the power they have now after China virus is just incredible, and that needs to stop. We got the same problem here in North Dakota. It could happen here. And that's basically what happened here. I love the fact that basically the sheriff said he's not going to enforce it. The Albuquerque police chief pretty much said the same thing. He says he's got problems with this. I'm glad to see this happening. And how come it is he takes a situation like this that it's obviously bad. We had an 11-year-old child killed outside of a ball game. But again, what she's doing by saying, oh, sorry, we're emergency declaration. I'm going to sign an executive order. And your Second Amendment right, been DC versus Heller, Brewer versus New York, has been upheld by the United States Constitution, and the Supreme Court says that you can't take my right away to carry, either out or concealed. And that's what she's saying. That's martial law. Let's just call it what it is. And she has no right to do that. I imagine this is going to, I know there were court cases already filed this morning. And I came late to this. I got to give Jamie kudos. He did all the groundwork on all this today, and great lead going from the New Mexico into the New Mexico governor deal. Yeah. But this is just insane.
So something else I found, Clay and Jay, that you'll find real interesting here, which I did from the NRA Institute for Legislative Action here. In 2021, Governor Grisham signed the Civil Rights Act. And what that does is, right here, the New Mexico Bill of Rights guarantees the right to keep and bear arms for security, defense, and all other lawful purposes. Under the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, which this governor signed, like I said, in 2021, a person whose rights under the Bill of Rights are violated may sue to recover for damages and obtain injunctive relief. Damages may be awarded up to, here you go, $2 million per person whose rights were violated. So you think when word gets out about this, what's going to happen here? But guess what it's going to be? Hey, the NRA is causing a bunch of problems. No, they're just going by the law you signed into order, Governor. And
she must have slipped her mind.
That's painfully obvious.
Say, JD, how is this order being met and received by the community down there in Albuquerque?
No, I see the videos this morning.
Yeah, not very good by the citizens there. They're definitely not happy about this, Jay. I love to see that sort of thing. You don't want to see any violence happen, but I mean, if your rights are getting violated like this is ridiculous. What if she'd say that about the First Amendment, Jay? Hey, everybody's no talking in public places between sun up and sundown. Nobody can speak a word in public for the safety. And something Clay said too here, Jay. So these things, here's a reasoning for doing this, right? Last month, 5-year-old Galila, these names I'm not familiar with, Samanigo, was fatally shot while asleep in the motorhome. 4 teens entered the mobile home community in 2 stolen vehicles. So these teens already stole vehicles.
Well, wait a second. Under the new bipartisan safety act, the fake safety act, guess what? You can't own firearms. Actually, you couldn't even before that at the age of 14.
Yeah, you
already have a law against it.
Yeah, you couldn't in New Mexico either. But they opened fire on the trailer. The police said the girl inside was struck in the head and later died. Okay, that's one instance, right? I'm going to give you one more here. The governor also cited an August shooting near in death in Taos, New Mexico, of a 13-year-old Amber Archuleta. A 14-year-old boy shot and killed a girl with his father's gun while they were at his home. So, Jay, what do any of those 2 incidents have to do with concealed carry by law-abiding citizens? Nothing. And do you think this law would stop this? These teenagers are already criminals doing felonious things. Couldn't care less firing into a trailer knowing they could have killed somebody, which they did. And a 13-year-old kid who shoots a girl in the head, like he cares about a concealed carry ban by the governor? These people that use no common sense, it's unbelievable to me.
Well, I look at it like this. Okay, here's these two incidences. Let's say once now that she made this executive order with powers she don't have,
Hmm.
someone dies again, a child, whoever it might be.
Hmm.
Well, under what the Constitution and the law, the things you were just talking about that she signed, wouldn't that be a liable case? If I was a really good lawyer looking for a good payday on my
For
percentage,
sure.
I guess I'm going to go talk to the family and say, hey, listen, you're entitled to $2 million. Let's do it for 10%. They're liable. Let's go after the state because they stopped people. And we got another article coming up here that talks about how many times armed
Hmm.
citizens, law-abiding citizens, stop things, especially in active shooter situations. And this is just a great example of how what she did is more of a gun grab than it is about safety, as she claims.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
is there
And
any recourse from the courts that they could do? Is there anything where Second Amendment individuals could take the governor to court to stop this action?
oh, I think not only federally, but their state court's going to via the
Yep.
law she signed that I read. She's
So,
violating her own order there.
and what I understand this morning, I think once again, Gunners of America, I think I heard mentioned, there's several organizations already filing in the courts. It was all happening this morning, so I don't have the detail, but I imagine by the end of the day, we'll know exactly what happened, whether it's in court, county court, which I imagine that's where it's going to be, and in state court. And I
Hmm.
imagine it's going to be filed in federal courts just on the basis of the Second Amendment violations, and it should be. We have two great decisions that pretty much back up what we say and completely tear down the argument of what she just did here. It's insane.
And so, if we're going by Bruin, which you only acceptable gun control would be what would historically they've done. That would be what was going churches, schools, and political rally, or I can't remember. So
Yeah,
this would definitely not fall within
no.
the historical thing of that. And of course, we got Miranda Viscoli, co-president of New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence, applauds the governor's order
Of
as
course.
a courageous and necessary step in curbing violence. And here it is, Clayton. If it saves one life, it's worth doing. Well, guess what?
Really?
Banning carrying of guns is not going to save life. That's going to cost good people their lives, just like the first story we were talking about on the
Yes.
indigenous reservations here in the United States. That's not going to save anybody's life. That's going to put you in danger because you're not going to have something to defend yourself. And if she thinks criminals are dumb enough not to notice that, then she's got a pretty low IQ herself.
I did like, and I enjoyed watching this morning of the people gathering. I've been in Albuquerque carrying, saying no, you can't
I
do that.
love
And
it.
there was even Native Americans there that were joining that, and it kind of
Yeah.
actually echoing what we just talked about earlier of what's happening with them being murdered, being taken, being missing.
Sure.
They're missing. So it was great to see all that come together in an effort to defend their rights. It's great, and it was even mentioned by the one guy that was giving a speech saying, "Hey, listen, we've seen this happen already. Remember?" and he's right. They saw this already on the reservations when settlers were coming out here and
Mhm.
taking things over. That they absolutely were taking the guns away because guess what? When you disarm a populace, you can control them, and they're not
Yeah.
going to take it again. They've already been there once.
Well, it
Yep,
sounds
just
it'll
like Joe
play
said.
out in the courts more than likely, and we'll find out how
Most
that.
likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by
yeah.
the way, nobody was arrested at that gathering. They were all carrying. Some had ARs, some had sidearms, handguns. Not one arrest. So I was glad to really see that
Yeah.
the police chief. Nope, I'm not enforcing it. Good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one more thing, real quick, Clay. Quote outlaw Josie Wales. You see that lad? You pull his teeth. He's harmless as a heel hound.
That's right. That's right.
He took his guns away, and that's what he said.
No
Old
more
Abe there.
problems. Yep.
All right.
So, yeah.
So real quick, let's get into this. Where a recent article says armed citizens are stopping active shooters 8 times more often than what the FBI is claiming. Now, Clay, maybe you could provide a little more detail on this, viewers.
Yeah, John R. Lott Jr., one of my favorite guys. I've read pretty much every book. They're sitting on my other desk over there. And he basically is the president. He left basically a job, I believe it was with, and I just learned this. I didn't realize he was with these
I
guys.
didn't either till I read this.
He
Clayton.
worked for the U.S. Department of Justice as the senior advisor for research and statistics. Imagine that. So he left his government job and became a private entrepreneur and started up Crime Prevention Research Center. And in this study, what he found, Out of the 440 active shooter incidences from 2014 to 2022, an armed citizen stopped 157 of them. That's that's just shy of what, 48, 47%, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a far cry from what the FBI was putting on there. They had misidentified 5 cases. He cites it. Usually that's because people who stopped the attack were incorrectly identified as security guards, and that can happen. We're human. Things can happen. But he also says while the FBI claims that just 4.6% of active shooters are stopped by law-abiding citizens carrying guns, the percentage he found was 35.7%. So we went from 4.6, single digits, to double digit, 35.7%. That's pretty
Significant.
big. Yeah, you can't just be off that far.
Well,
And he says he's more confident. He says that he even identified a higher rate when you figured out in 2022 it was higher and jumps up to 41.3. That's compared to 4%.
Well, he said, they didn't adjust it, and he said it was highlighted. No. He highlighted this by pointing to an email he got in 2015, which the FBI admitted that he did uncover an example, right?
Yes.
And,
yes, he did.
And then he looked again, and they still didn't change it. Yeah, he reported it to him. They still didn't change it, and he suggested it's political pressure, which I wouldn't suggest. I'd say 100% that's what it is. That are stopping the FBI from telling the truth.
When he was working for him, he basically between 2014 and 2022, he identified that it was almost 8 times higher than what they were reporting. Pointed it out to him, and I would imagine that had something to do with him leaving too. He probably did not like what he was seeing, and said, I just can't be part of this anymore. I don't know. I don't know the background story, but everything happened about the same time, and then he left. So I'm guessing that had something to do with it.
Well, he says too, if we limit the discussion of places where permit holders were allowed to carry, the rate is 11 times higher that they stopped it.
Yeah, where you're not prevented.
And he goes on. The FBI data on active shootings is missing so many defensive gun uses that it's hard to believe it isn't intentional. Errors can happen, but the failure to fix past reports shows a troubling disregard for the truth, which recently the FBI seems to have a big problem with the truth. So,
well, I can tell you this, Jamie, and I don't know about you. It's not illegal, guys. Just so everybody knows this, I don't care what kind of sign they have on a private business's door that says no guns allowed. If they're not checking and you're carrying concealed, which is legal, there's nothing they can do about it except ask you to leave. And if they don't ask you to leave, you may carry in there. I with joy disregard their little signs. I don't care what they say. My rights are not trumped by their stupidity.
A person who wants to come in and kill a bunch of people or doesn't care about killing somebody couldn't care less about it.
Better not go in there. There's a sign there.
Yeah. Oh man, I was going to create a bunch of carnage in here. Now I can't.
Yeah, darn it.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, today, as we know, 22 years ago was one of the darkest days in our country's history. I just wanted to spend a moment on it, and I kind of wanted to find out, JD, do you remember what you were doing, where you were at on that day that you remember hearing the first tower was hit?
Yep, I do, Jay. I was at the place of employment that I work right now, and my boss's father actually owned it and came in, and he said, I remember exactly what he said. He said a terrorist flew an airplane into the tower, and I said, "How do you know it was a terrorist?" And he said, "He said, how could you miss seeing one of these big towers and flying into it, right?" And then we were glued. He had a little TV in his work area there, and we watched it. And I went back to work, and then I heard him hollering there, and I come in, and then he said another one hit it, and that's history now. And we were all glued to the thing for the next, basically. All days, wondering what the heck was. Yeah, all day for sure. I mean, we pretty much ceased doing what we did at work, and we're in shock.
Yeah, I actually was here in my routine every morning. Get up, turn on my news, and make coffee, and sit down and welcome the day. Well, for whatever reason, I did not turn it on. I don't know why. I just didn't. And my father-in-law called me from up the hill here because we're on our ranch. He said, "You got to turn the TV on." He says, "We just had an airplane fly into the towers." I was like, "What?" Turned it on. Well, I had one of them TVs that you could put a videotape in and record at the same time, when the one of them all in one thing.
I remember those, yeah.
I grabbed a blank VHS, threw it in there, and started recording. And I did that all day long, just kept putting tapes in. So I have actual footage as it was coming out that I showed my kids because I wanted them to know what happened at that point in
Sure.
history. But I remember it vividly. We sat and watched it all day long, and as news was coming in, nobody really knew the extent as to what had happened there. And then the Pentagon was hit, and of course we all know what happened in Philadelphia. And but I gotta add one thing: there was a gun show in Bismarck that following week. That following weekend, I have never seen people be so nice to others all around Bismarck and Mandan. You know, you go into a store, flags, U.S. flags everywhere. It didn't offend nobody then. Just it was such a unified
Unifying.
thing
Yeah.
that I've never witnessed in my entire life since. And now you look at where we're at now. Wow, how we
Yeah.
have fallen from that day. We need to
mean,
get back to that. We need to get back to that.
It's I do miss that. Unfortunately, it took something like that, but I do miss how the country came together after that
It was
happened.
amazing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody cared about America. That was our main concern right then,
Yes.
and to go get the people who did that to us. So
Yeah.
Didn't
you know.
matter, Democrat, Republican, liberal. It did not matter. It was the first time I've ever witnessed that in mass, and it was no different in Bismarck and Mandan that week.
Yep.
It was just the way people treated each other. So nice, polite. They were gung ho about, you know, we gotta stick together. We gotta pray. I can't tell you. I still
I
can't.
bet
even
Clayton.
say
I
the word.
bet the guns were flying out of there like hotcakes too.
Big time, big time, big time.
That's what I thought. I mean, nobody knew what was going to happen, right? You can't
That's right.
obviously shoot a jet out of the air, but you never know what was coming next. If
You
they
couldn't
had
buy an
ground
AR.
attacks or-
You couldn't buy an AR at all by about the first 2 hours that place was.
Hey, I thought they were banned then.
Yeah.
The cosmetic features were in magazine
Some of the
capacity.
cosmetic, you could still sell the mags, but they had to be pre 1992.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
gentlemen,
So what were you doing, Jay?
so I was in radio up in Minot at that time, and of course we turned the TV on and we saw the first plane hit. Well, we didn't see it actually. We were just watching the coverage of the first plane hit, and we thought, okay, seriously, a tragic, terrible accident. And of course, the camera was still on when it hit the second plane, and that's when my heart stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on?
Not an
This
accident.
is not an accident. This is something that, you know, we all need to find out what is going on with this country. We're being attacked, obviously. And like you said, Clay, the whole thing, it just felt like the whole country came together, at least for a good solid 6 months, and we all were just one instead of having the division that we're all seeing right now.
Absolutely. It was amazing to see that witness. I'd love to see it again. We need
Yes.
that. We truly do.
Well, let's talk what you got coming up now. Wednesday night, 6 Mountain, 7 Central Time, Guns in the 701. What's the topics we'll be covering this week?
Well, I can tell you, we got a poll up, Jay. It says, would you like to see more public hunting land in North Dakota? Yes, no, and I don't care. And I tell you, the yes is more than double the voting on the no, but it's going to be a great discussion. I'll tell you right now, I'm a yes if there was certain things that would happen. Otherwise, I'm a no, but you'll have to tune in Wednesday at 6 Mountain, 7 Central on Facebook, YouTube, or gunsin701.com to find that out.
All right.
Anyone who knows me knows where I fall on that. I'm not a big advocate of government owning land at all. At best, I'd like to see it at state, even be better in the county, but the feds have no right owning any land out here except for forts and post offices and military bases. That's all they're allowed to in the Constitution, and of course the 10 by 10 square miles at DC. So yeah, I'm a pretty hard liner on this, so it could be good. But Jamie, I got a great 2A bullet point. I'll give you a hint.
All
It's going to
right.
be a follow-up on what's happening out in Montana with the guy near the gun-free zone near the school. So
Okay. And then I'll tell you what, I got one. I'm going to give you a little hint on. We didn't get to it today. Do you think the million guns a month sale thing happened for 49 consecutive months? You'll have to tune in for that one too to find out.
You can catch them gunsin the701.com. It is JD and Clay. Well, listen, guys, it's farewell for now, but we'll have you back in here every once in a while, maybe around deer season kickoff, and then
bet.
maybe toward the end of the year.
Absolutely.
We'll get you back on and visit with you guys if that's all right with you, okay?
Sounds great,
Oh,
Jay. Been a pleasure, my friend.
It has
Absolutely.
been, and I want to just add, everybody, this was not something that none of us are mad at each other or anything.
Right.
I know that I've been asked. I was like, no. I said it's just right now. We're just going to try some different stuff, and yeah, we're more than happy to come back on anything.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jake.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yep. Thanks to JR and K-Fire as well.
For sure. Absolutely, gentlemen. I hope you have yourself a great week. We look forward to catching up with you again real soon down the road. And of course, Clay, what do you got for me?
As always, keep your powder dry, guys.
There you go, my friends. Take care. All right, it is 1 o'clock here at the KFYR Plus News Desk. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with your headlines coming up next.
Since 1908, H.A. Thompson & Sons has helped thousands of buildings run comfortably through the hottest and coldest weather in North Dakota.
Now, our guaranteed maintenance agreements for heating and cooling systems keep your equipment running efficiently, reducing costs, and providing consistent comfort. Preventive maintenance doesn't cost, it activates, and we'll show you how to save money and improve your comfort.
Working together, we'll find ways to help your building and budget with our custom maintenance plans.
Call us today, H.A. Thompson & Sons.
These small towns, they can have what they have just because of the lignite industry.
People who start out as my students have become my colleagues.
Lignite has provided cost-effective base load generation for us for many years.
I'm Dee Helling.
My name is Holly Birch.
I'm an operations shift supervisor at Coyote Station.
Manager of Communications and IT at Capital Electric Cooperative.
I am faculty here at Bismarck State College in the energy program.
I'm lignite.
Life can be a little overwhelming at times. We've all heard meditation can help, but we're not sure how to begin, and we don't have time to find out. Enter guided meditations on the Live Well with Advocate Aurora Health app. They're free, but the benefits are priceless.
The market is hot, and many homes are selling first day with multiple offers. Hi, I'm Judy, and I've had the pleasure of helping sell more than 800 homes. Don't wait. Me, Judy Meslowski with Bianco Realty, and let's get moving.